They say 3rd time's a charm. If only we could have been so lucky. But luck had nothing to do with it. Perseverance was the key to our success. After 5 failed attempts, equal suffrage in Oregon became law, and women won the right to vote in an historic referendum in 1912. It was a heady time. Women were taking to the streets, making inspiring speeches, even being thrown into jail, simply for asking for the same rights that men take for granted. And I, Abigail Scott Duniway, was right in the middle of the whole kit and caboodle, asking important questions. Are you willing to stand for what you believe? Can you lend us a hand and roll up your sleeve? When together we band, there's so much we can achieve today. Are you willing to fight injustice that's wrong and speak out for what's right when opposition is strong? The truth will ignite a light that will guide you along the way. History reminds us that no future's set in stone. Chains of mail confine us, and we must break them on our own.
I was born to be a newspaper man. The printed word was my domain. As a speaker, I may not have been as eloquent as some, but as a writer, I was second to none. And at the turn of the 20th century, no editor in the Northwest was more feared or respected than me. The name Harvey Scott is synonymous with learned integrity, to be trusted and valued. My opinions mattered. I am willing to stand for what I believe and meet any demand with my bravery. And when I'm in command, there's so much I can achieve today. I am willing to fight an injustice that's wrong, and I know what is right when opposition is strong. My truth will ignite a light that will guide you along the way. History reminds us that no future's casting stone.
Chains of mail confine us, and we must break them on our own. Letter by letter, speech by speech, every town hall and meeting until we reach our goal of equality for all. Yes, we're willing to stand for what we believe. Yes, we'll lend you a hand and roll up our sleeve. When together we band, there's so much we can achieve today. Yes, we're willing to fight injustice that's wrong and speak out for what's right when opposition is strong. The truth will ignite a light that will guide you along the way. Are you willing to stand?
Are you willing to stand?
Are you willing to stand with me? I was born in Tazewell County, Illinois in 1834, the third of 12 children. When I was 17 years of age, my family packed up all of our earthly belongings to head west on the Oregon Trail. My father's decision to journey west came as a complete surprise to the entire family, especially my mother, who was silently opposed to the move. My father asked me to keep a journal of our trek to the Northwest. Oh, I had never seen such wondrous sights, about which I wrote in lavish detail. But in the midst of such beauty lay tragedy, where sorrow and death lurked around every corner. 12 children did my mother bear in Groveland, Illinois. Her life was never easy there in Groveland, Illinois. Adventure called my father west to seek his fortune with the rest. and Mother had to leave her nest in Groveland, Illinois. So sick and weakened from the start, by River Platte she did depart. She left her life, her home, her heart in Groveland, Illinois. She held her newborn girl, perfect as any pearl. She closed her eyes as she smiled, then she said, "A woman's lot is hard, treated without regard." She knew that heartache and pain lay ahead. She never smiled. She never smiled. Becoming a wife meant spending your life under the thumbs of men. Nothing new or strange. No path she could take or choice she could make, just as it's always been. Nothing new, nothing will change. No chance to dream or play, just endless chores all day. No conversations with sisters or friends. The garden she must tend, more clothes to wash and mend. No recreation when work never ends. She never smiled. She never smiled. I followed in my mother's footsteps and was married by the age of 19 and would go on to have 6 children. Young daughters mature and won't be secure until a man they find. Nothing new or strange. There's really no choice. They're given no voice with which to speak their minds. Nothing new, nothing will change. My mother's fate was sealed. No power did she wield to dodge the dark days when pleasures were few. Our children's world could be one of equality, and girls might find joy my mother never knew. She never smiled. She never smiled. She never smiled.
14. The perfect age for the adventure of a lifetime. In 1852, my family set out on the Oregon Trail from a sleepy rural town outside of Peoria. That's when my life really began. Soon after arriving in the Oregon Territory at age 17, I served with a local militia for 2 years, bravely distinguishing myself during the Yakima War. After quelling an Indian uprising, I spent time as a logger, a surveyor, and even a gold miner in Idaho. As a boy growing up in the wheat fields of Illinois, I could have never imagined embarking on such bold enterprises. It's a great time to be a man in the Oregon Territory. Here you can hatch a bold new plan and write your own heroic story. Quench your desire to build an empire, accept all acclamation, groom a solid reputation that any saint would admire. We survive on our wits and on our loyalty, where ragged misfits can rise to royalty. A pioneer fraternity, brothers till eternity comes to call. It's a great time to grow up in the Oregon Territory. Grow a big dog from a pup and scale the tallest promontory. We're rugged and rough, we're just being tough. We'll never win the day. You need brains to carve the way when brawn is not quite enough. Here's a land filled with endless opportunity. Reap riches and wealth with complete impunity. Say goodbye to the Midwest. Say hello to the very best place I know. It's a great time to be a man. Test your mettle, be all you can. It's a great time to be a man in the Oregon Territory.
By the time I was 24, I developed an active interest in the women's movement. Between all my tasks as a young mother and housewife, I began writing letters to the editor of the Oregon City Argus, advocating for equality of the sexes. I also wrote my first novel, Captain Gray's Company, one of the first books written about life on the Oregon Trail. But in all my writing, I could not help but highlight the horrid conditions faced by women in our American society. In 1862, my husband Ben was injured in an accident, and I, at the age of 28, became the family's primary breadwinner. Although I had little formal education, I loved to write. And in 1871, I began publishing a weekly newspaper, the New Northwest. Of course, if I had been a man like my brother Harvey, I would have already been an editor in an established newspaper and receiving a handsome salary. But the New Northwest was more than a source of income for my family. It provided me with an outlet for my writing, which ranged from editorial columns to serial novels.
When the Yakima War came to an end, I joined my family in Forest Grove and enrolled at Pacific University, graduating the head of my class. Well, in a graduating class of one, this may not have been my grandest achievement, but still, I was their first alumnus. A distinguished man of letters, I also served as Portland's first librarian. In 1865, I was offered a job at the Oregonian, Portland's largest newspaper. By 1866, I had become its junior editor. I had found my calling, fulfilling my passion for debate, my love of language. Words can soothe or surprise, two for both wise and unwitty. Words can make a page cry or paint what the eye cannot see. Words are spoken in classes to influence masses of people. Words can rouse congregations to loud jubilations that rise to the top of the steeple. It's not just a novel invention. Words can sow peace or contention. Some men speak with lofty pretension, while some others speak with humility. It's the universal utility of language.
Words express sorrow or grief and bring blessed relief to the stricken. Words weave yarns of suspense that grow ever more tense as plots thicken. Words can tell a tall tale in such vivid detail and description. Words give great information from current sensation to life as an ancient Egyptian. When pen meets the parchment, a new chapter is started, and the thoughts remain permanently long after the author has departed. Words, for better or worse, give blessings or curse as intended.
Words obscure or reveal may injure or heal the offended.
Words speak falsehood or truth from the sage or uncouth to the quarrelsome. Words can shape a new nation, inspire populations to fight for their right to freedom, freedom, freedom. My newspaper, the New Northwest, had a motto: free speech, free press, free people. It was much more than an opportunity to publish my stories and articles. It was a sounding board for my political and social opinions, primarily as an advocate for women's rights. Women's suffrage, the right for women to vote in elections, became my top priority. I soon became one of the foremost public speakers in the Northwest and traveled across Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, stumping for women's rights. My life was forever changed in 1871 when I saw Susan B. Anthony speak at the Washington Territorial Legislature. By the time the equal suffrage referendum went to the polls in 1884, Susan and I had become lifelong friends and comrades in arms, having traveled over 2,400 miles of muddy frontier roads together. However, like those muddy frontier roads and the road to women's suffrage, my relationship with Susan could be just as bumpy. If there's a woman that can be half as stubborn as me, it would have to be Susan B. Anthony. Everybody likes to have their own way. They say it's human nature to press your own cause. The laws that limit ladies' capacity, to some degree we disagree on the strategy for change. Though I follow her lead, where we've never agreed is how to proceed to get the job done. She wants to push and shove. I prefer a kid glove. With persistence and love, the fight will be won. If there's a woman that can be half as stubborn as me, it would have to be Susan B. Anthony. intransigent old fool from the school of hard knocks. She's a hard-headed mule who kicks when she talks. As a team, we seem a formidable pair as we dare to demand our share of the ballot box. But she wants a confrontation, I want cooperation. In desire and dedication, we both hold fast. If there's a woman that can be half as stubborn as me, it would have to be Susan B. Anthony. We are sisters, competitors, liberators, and mentors to thousands of women nationwide. We're forging a future for females and marching side by side. We pursue a common goal at the poll to cast our own vote. To quote the founding father, Mr. Jefferson, when he wrote the words with his pen that all men are created equal. As an American, any woman deserves all rights reserved and restored in full. There's a woman that can be half as stubborn as me. It would have to be Susan B. Anthony. It was often challenging dealing with Susan, but those difficulties were small potatoes compared to dealing with my brother Harvey. Oh, that pompous windbag had become editor of Oregon's largest newspaper, the Oregonian.
Well, having the state's largest newspaper gave me a powerful platform to influence public policy. And it was only natural that the people would look to me for leadership. With my photographic memory and my upstanding moral character, who better to guide the good people of our fledgling state? After all, who else had the capacity to memorize all 12 books of Paradise Lost? See, being an editor requires you to take a stand on all the major issues of the day and be prepared to back up your opinions, not only with your words, but often with your fists or more. On one occasion, the mealy-mouthed editor of the Portland Bulletin, Jimmy O'Mara, and I came to blows. After the 1866 election, and, well, he drew a gun. In true Frontier fashion, I relieved him of his weapon, and I gave him a drubbing he would never forget. However, I learned that one could never be too careful, and I often carried one myself for extra security.
For all the movement's talk about uniting for the cause, its leadership was fractured in almost every conceivable way. The greatest of these ideological schisms was over prohibition. Many in the movement wanted to tie equal suffrage to the temperance movement. To this I strenuously objected. Well, let's face it, men love their liquor, and the liquor industry loves its money. Moreover, since men are going to be the only ones voting on the referendum, we need to curry their favor, not incur their wrath. Well, to me, this was just common sense. Men need to be coaxed. They will not be driven. We require their vote to achieve success. If we're to have any hope, they're the ones to impress. Though they hold the power, we will never cower. It's our finest hour. We're armed with charm, the weapon women were given. Men need to be coaxed. They will not be driven. A dose of good humor and gentle persuasion will get good results on almost any occasion. Never be too blunt, try not to confront, spectacle and stunt, offend the men, for which we will not be forgiven. Their delicate egos need a good stroking. To harangue and harass is only provoking. A petty pretense to pick a fight and quashing their quarrelsome nature will carry us closer to having the legal right to choose. Win or lose, we'll flex our collective collective might. Men need to be coaxed. They will not be driven. The carrot's worth more than the stick. It's the tactic to pick when we're right in the thick of a contest uneven. Never say we're whipped, we're still well equipped from the tail to tip to fight to right the world we women must live in. Men need to be coaxed. They will not be driven, driven, driven. By 1890, Harvey had begun to cool on the idea of women having the right to vote. Early on, he'd been a vocal champion of our cause. But by 1899, he and his newspaper had declared all-out war on the movement. His contempt for our movement dripped from every word he uttered.
Abigail's obsession with the voting rights referendum impacted all parts of her life. And her radical political beliefs were injected into every conversation and social interaction. Perhaps even more annoying was her willingness to challenge those who were clearly better equipped to make decisions about government. Here she is, a woman with little education, thinking that she can tell experienced, college-educated men how to run the affairs of the state. Reminding Abigail of her place in the women's sphere was more than brotherly advice. It was my civic duty.
It was intolerable. This made for some very interesting family reunions.
It's the 1st of February. Turn of the century. I'm another year older and another year's past. I feel peace and contentment. I know it won't last. I'm richer, I'm wiser, and a bit of a miser. I'm never opposed to an evening of fun. My birthday party's begun, and one by one the carriages unload. At my humble abode, my sister soon has shown up to darken my door, and I know what lay in store. I usher her in, her demeanor is grim. Let the fireworks begin. A glass of wine, dear Abigail. Do you want white or red?
Read your editorial last night. What shameful things you said.
Red, well, I've a bottle just for you. Shipped in from France, a vintage 1890.
To rattle on and on about the equal suffrage movement. Your logic needs improvement, and your timing shows bad taste.
Its oaken flavor and its rich bouquet. As fine a wine as can be had in Portland
Today you act so innocent, a face of false contrition, and yet your paper prints its opposition to change.
The greatest government the world has known. To appease your poison petticoat, I cannot condone. A birthday or holiday or family festivity, any gay occasion or cause for celebration is an open invitation for hostility at the Scots. Women have improved their lots, their rights have been expanding. Why should men consider caving in to all that you demand?
Demanding a voice in government is reasonable and merited. The gravy looks quite good, but would look better on your head.
Heading to the hot springs for some rest and relaxation, to recover from your insufferable, non-stop recrimination.
The nation needs to recognize a woman's right to vote.
My vote is to grab the nearest dinner roll and ram it down
You
your
throw
throat.
your childish tantrums, both undignified or insane. I'll let you pick.
your favorite dressing for that salad of a brain.
A brain is made to make a choice. I can make mine same as you.
You choose your next accessory to wear, the pasta or ragu.
A birthday or holiday or family festivity. Remove all sharp utensils, from carving knives to pencils. It's a lesson in uncivil sibling antipathy at the Scotts.
Victory! Defeating the equal suffrage referendum in 1900 was one of my crowning achievements. And handing Abigail her head on a platter? Oh, it gave me particular pleasure.
Losing the election of 1900 was shattering. We were so close. But it galvanized my determination to press forward and not give up. We are not whipped. We are stronger than ever. We may have slipped, but the tyrants can never dissolve our resolve. We will evolve into a movement that will spread the world around. Can't you hear the sound of our voices growing, showing that united as one with a bond they cannot sever? We are not whipped, we are stronger than ever.
I showed them a thing or two. This should keep them in their place. The devils finally got their due. I sent them packing in disgrace. No more inciting discontent, mocking our sacred government. We'll give those malcontents the what for, and show the suffragists to the door. I showed
We are
them
not
a
whipped,
thing or two.
we are
This should
stronger
keep
than
them in their
ever.
place. The
We
devils
may
finally
have
got
slipped,
their due.
but the
I sent them
tyrants can
packing in
never
disgrace.
dissolve our
Inciting discontent,
resolve.
mocking
We will
our
evolve
sacred
into a
government.
movement
We'll give
that will
those
spread the
malcontents the
world
what
around.
for,
Can't you
and show
hear the
the
sound of our
suffragists to the
voices
door.
growing, showing that united as one with a bond they cannot sever? We are not whipped, we are stronger than ever. Defeated, but not beaten, we pressed on. But for all of our hard work and optimism, we suffered another stunning defeat in 1906 by an even greater margin than the election of 1900. It seemed we were moving backward, not forward, and our dream of equal suffrage that much further from our reach.
I savored my victory in 1900, but my satisfaction would be short-lived. I ran for the U.S. Senate in 1903, and with my well-established qualifications, I was the clear front-runner. But despite my unimpeachable reputation, and my bid was unsuccessful, and my great opportunity on the national stage would be denied. For all my achievements, in retrospect, Many seem petty and insignificant, with fame and public esteem as fleeting as a summer breeze.
As for my brother, whom I hate with a perfect and justifiable hatred, there is a chasm that will never be bridged without signs of his repentance. It gave me great satisfaction indeed to see Harvey defeated in the race for the United States Senate seat in Oregon in 1903. But for all of our high-minded ideals for which we fought so bitterly, what would we leave behind when our small lives were over? What will my grandchildren think? Will my trials and labors soon all be for naught? Just a great epic battle, the future forgot. A grasp for a ring that could not be caught. Will my life's work be gone in a blink? What will my grandchildren think?
What will my grandchildren think? Will I leave them a world in shamble disorder? Will chaos soon reign from border to border? Is my house built with cards and not brick and mortar? Will all morals be washed down the sink? What will my grandchildren think?
Will I be remembered as a woman who tried to empower the weak and ill-treated? Will our cause be forever defeated and survive as a footnote, a failure, an enlightened endeavor that died?
Will my life's work be gone in a blink? What will my grandchildren think?
What will my grandchildren think? The sixth time was a charm, and women won the right to vote in an historic referendum at long last in 1912, 6 years after Idaho and 2 years after Washington. Oh, I had the great honor of signing the Equal Suffrage Proclamation, and I was the first woman to vote in an election in Oregon in 1914. Harvey did not live to see his skullduggery of 1900 undone, nor his beloved Oregonian's endorsement of the referendum 12 years later. Harvey died in 1910, 2 years before the referendum's success at the polls. I'll always wonder if he would have supported the movement had I not been his sister.
The Western states would pave the way for the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, stating, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on the account of sex."
As citizens of the United States, it is our civic duty to ensure that all Americans have unimpeded access to the polls and are represented in democratic government. To that end, we must be united in protecting our rights and unwavering in protecting the rights of our fellow citizens. We'll not be whipped, we are stronger than ever. The balance has tipped, but the tyrants can never dissolve our resolve. We will evolve into a movement that will spread the world around. Can't you hear the sound of our voices grow?